everybody please stand and face the flag and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business is to elect a moderator. Our moderator, Doug Fryer, couldn't be here today. Peter Pagnegro has volunteered to step in if anyone does not have an objection. Okay. Any nominations?
No.
Peter passed the code.
I'll second it.
Any other nominations? All those in favor? Aye.
All right, thank you. Okay, just a couple notes. Is everybody registered to vote who can register to vote? And please, and I'm going to do it too, silence your cell phones so we don't have any disruptions. That's close. All right. All right. Right. Oh yeah, I'll get to all those rules. Don't worry about my notes. I may not be Doug Bryant, but I have notes, so I'll get close. All right, so we'll start with a reading of the warning. This is a special town meeting, and the warning is the legal voters of the town of Londonderry, Vermont are hereby notified and warned to meet at the Town Hall at 139 Middletown Road, South Londonderry in Londonderry on Saturday, July 19th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. for a special town meeting to transact the following business from the floor. Beginning at 9:30 a.m., the following business will be transacted from the floor. Article 1, to elect the following officer. Lister for the remainder of a 3-year term which will expire on town meeting day, March 3, 2026. Article 2, shall the town of Londonderry vote to disapprove the amendments adopted by the Select Board on April 21, 2025 to the town of Londonderry ordinance to regulate the operation of short-term rentals. Okay, so we'll start with Article 1. Can I get someone to move Article 1?
So moved.
Okay, so did you get that and do it? So if you make a motion, if you could just hold your hand up and say what your name is so we can get that recorded.
Amy Corwin.
Okay, do we have a second? And you got that. Okay. So again, I'll read the article. Article 1 is to elect the following officer. Lister for the remainder of a 3-year term which will expire on town meeting day, March 3, 2026. There are a number of rules regarding voting in officers. My understanding is this may be quick, so I'm not going to waste our time with those until we have a contested election. Okay? Okay, so we'll accept nominations.
I nominate Marge Fish.
I second it.
And that's second. Okay, is Marge here?
I'm just not here.
Marge is not here. Okay.
And Marge is very willing to continue on.
I'm sorry, what?
Marge is very willing to continue on.
Oh, so Marge has already been appointed and she's willing.
She is willing, yes.
Okay.
She's already been helping, so.
Okay, do we have any other nominations? Okay. I will close nomination. Oh, go ahead.
I'll move that nominations be closed and we all vote for March 5th.
Cast one vote, right? Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
I'll second it. Pam Spalding.
Okay. All in favor of closing nominations and casting one vote for Marge Fish, say aye. Aye. say nay. The ayes have it. Marge Fish is our lister. Okay. Moving on to Article 2. I will again read the article. Shall the town of London, Article 2, shall the town of Londonderry vote to disapprove the amendments adopted by the Select Board on April 21, 2025 to the town of Londonderry ordinance to regulate the operation of short-term rentals? Okay, will someone move Article 2? Okay, do we have a second? You get that? Okay.
Want to go over the rules for
I'm, you are on the balls. Hopefully I am too. Yeah, so, let me make sure I've done that. Okay, so before I reread the article, I'm going to go over some rules regarding our discussions. The first rule, and the most important, is one that Doug emphasized to me when we spoke this week, is that to remind everyone, we all come as neighbors. We're all going to leave as neighbors. So let's focus on the issues and not the persons and the personalities, because that will make it easier for all of us to listen to each other, understand each other, and leave again as neighbors. And I think we all share in the notion that that's the most important thing. Okay. Yeah.
Could you clarify what a vote either way means? Because the wording is kind of like a double negative. The wording of the shall we, you know.
Yes, I'll get through. I've got a whole list of things. And if I miss something then, please feel free to ask. Okay. So first rule, or first thing we want to make clear about this vote is that it's an up or down vote. There's no, our advice from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns that under the regulatory structure that this vote is only up or down. It's not a vote where we're going to address each item and suggest amendments. The amendments will all go either up or down based upon this vote. Okay? Only registered voters, residents in the town of Londonderry, will be able to speak. There is a mechanism for folks from outside of town to be able to speak, but they can only speak if there's unanimous consent of the body. Any questions you have will be directed to the moderator, and then from me, we'll figure out if there's someone up here that's got an answer for you, unless I have an answer for you. Okay. Everyone will have the opportunity to speak once. And after we get through everybody, if you want to speak for a second time, you'll have that opportunity, but only then, and you'll only be able to have one opportunity. So you can have a first opportunity, a second opportunity, but that's it. Okay, all comments must be germane to the article. There are no speeches permitted, so we won't have folks reading from paper or their phones with regard to their comments. Okay, any questions? Okay, we have a question in the back from someone. Well, what's your question, sir?
Hi, I'm Ron. I'm a retired military officer. Are you trying to limit speech, or are you trying to structure how it goes?
That is an interesting question. I'm going to give you an answer that's not, I'm not going to address free speech issues. I'm talking about the structure of meeting.
Right.
That's the structure
Make
of
sure
meeting.
that you're not going to limit our speech.
The structure, so let me answer, sure. So I'll answer the question this way. The structure is going to be that town residents will have the opportunity to speak once and then speak again after everyone has said what they want to say. And they'll get those two opportunities.
Yeah, my question is, you just differentiate.
And I'm continuing
Yeah.
that another bit of the structure is that the comments need to be germane to the article. Yes?
Yes.
And I did, and so your question is, if you're, well, go ahead, ask your question, because I think I know what it
We're
is.
trying to limit our free speech by differentiating our class of citizenship in this town. That's my question.
That's from all.
It's not a class of citizenship, because your citizenship, I presume you're a citizen of the United States.
Yes.
Your residency is the distinction that is made.
Residency doesn't limit speech.
Yeah. So I'm not going to entertain, I'm not going to get into a
As long as you
legal,
allow us to speak, I have no issues.
I'm sorry, what?
As long as you allow us to speak, I have no issues.
Peter, it's
Okay, well,
The body of the town has to vote on that, and that's
You
state
can
law.
limit how
There's no-
it goes, but you can't limit.
Right, you can go outside and you can have a speech all you want, that's freedom of speech. In this context,
I don't want to open you up to a lawsuit.
you can have a lovely conversation with our town attorney, by all means.
okay, so your comments are taken,
Thank you.
and the structure of the meeting will be as I presented, which is Vermont law. So if you're free to have your speech elsewhere, but not in the...
Well, if you're going to limit my speech, we might have a problem.
Did agree to
Okay.
Constitution.
Guys, folks, that's okay. He can have his opinions, we all can have our opinions, and we'll move on from there. Okay. Any further questions? Okay, so let me read again Article 2. Article 2, shall the town of Londonderry vote to disapprove the amendments adopted by the Select Board on April 21, 2025 to the town of Londonderry ordinance to regulate the operation of short-term rentals? Can I have someone move that article? Did we do that? You guys are good. So we'll take that as my second reading and we'll open it up for discussion.
Peter, I think there was a question about describing what a yes or a no vote means in the context of the language of the...
Sure, we could do that before. I was going to do it before the vote, but if that's be helpful, I'll do it now. So, when we get to voting, an aye vote will mean that you disapprove the amendments. A nay vote will mean essentially that you approve the amendments or you are against the disapproval of the amendments. And I think that was the point you were getting at. So we could go, so let's go through it. So if you vote aye, you're voting to disapprove the amendments. If you're voting nay, you're voting against the disapproval of the amendments, which is similar to approving the amendments.
The amendments stand right now.
Right.
So we're here to, the question was called to disapprove of them. So voting for the disapproval is what
Right.
brings it down, takes
Right,
it
so if you
away.
vote aye,
Because it stands right now.
right.
Yeah. So aye is
Okay,
against.
so in other words, Taylor, that's actually helpful. So if you vote aye, you're disapproving the amendments. If you vote nay, the amendments that are in place right now will stay. Thank you, Taylor. That's more articulate than I was.
Could we get a summary of what the amendments are?
Okay, so
The content.
I just want to answer that question, then we'll open up for discussion. So is that a question?
Yes.
Okay. Who would like to?
I'm happy to do that.
Andy, you want to come up to the microphone?
Hello, I'm Andy Dahlstrom. I am not a resident of Londonderry. I'm a resident of Peru, so I'm not a voter in this town, just to be clear. I was hired by the town a year ago, April, to administer the short-term rental ordinance that the town of Londonderry had adopted in December of 2023. Summary of the changes, this is what's posted on the town website, so I'll read them in the order that they appear there. The changes, or the amendments as we're calling them, are rental arbitrage is defined and aligned with Vermont STR policy. Only owners can hold an STR license, not renters. Just to clarify, rental arbitrage is a practice where someone takes out a long-term lease on a property and then sublets it or sub-rents it. That's disapproved. Knox boxes will be required when a property is vacant or unattended. I would add a really important note to that, which is that the Knox box requirement, as is explained in the full body of the amended ordinance, that technology, as a firefighter or emergency services, key for access in a 911 call, that is only required if a rental property has an automatic fire alarm. In other words, one that, when activated, dials 911 automatically and immediately. So it pertains to very, very few properties that are running as an STR. The third is there will be a limit on the number of STRs that each owner can register, but owners that already have in excess of this number will be grandfathered as long as they hold deed. Sorry, there's a word that trips me there. So there will be a limit to ownership, which means that an unhosted property, essentially there's one unhosted property that can be licensed for any one person or entity, with the caveat that if someone is a resident, a homesteaded resident with an STR on their property, in other words, an ADU, auxiliary dwelling unit, they may have a second off-site or different property STR license. The fourth is a newly purchased property cannot be registered as an unhosted rental in the first year of ownership. The fifth is there is a cap of 50 rental nights for future unhosted rentals. Future means not yet licensed in the first year of the short-term rental registration program. Next, there's a quiet hour added for evening. I think it's, doing this from memory, but 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Is that the?
I believe so.
Thank you. Specifications to meet Vermont Fire Code were added, and specifically those are to ensure that fire and CO alarms are within their operational date of 10 years. In other words, they're not expired, and that window size for egress meets the state and national fire code. Two more. Owners will provide disposal containers and arrange for timely removal of all trash, compost, and recyclables in line with state
because when
law
they challenged
for
it,
disposal.
we
And
didn't
finally,
affect it that
any fees
Right.
associated with
the outcome
serving
of this meeting.
a short-term rental operator
Do you
a
think
violation
we'll
ticket
accept?
will be added
think he
to
will if he needs
the
to.
ticket.
Okay, any other comments? Can you come to the microphone? I think that is what we're going to ask folks to do.
Sorry, this is maybe a dumb question, but how do you define short-term rental? Is it like a day, a week, a month, 6 months? How do
Who
you
wants to
define it?
take that?
Might as well get my steps there.
Yeah. A short-term rental is defined as any rental that is of a duration less than 30 days. So under a month. And also, a property that is renting for less than a month needs to reach a threshold of, must exceed 14 days in a calendar year before it is considered a short-term rental, which is an important clarifier because of so many practices in this town. And in other words, if you have a property that is rented nightly or by the week, but does not exceed 14 days or nights of rental in a calendar year, it doesn't meet the threshold and therefore is not defined as a short-term rental and therefore need not be licensed under the ordinance. So until you get into a third week of rentals, which are of a duration less than a month, you don't have an STR. Does that clarify that for you?
Clarifies, it's confusing, but it's clarified.
Okay, yes.
Andy, do you want to mention that state?
That's a state definition, yeah. So not that Londonderry's ordinance adopts a standard that is in Vermont statute. There's plenty of state regulation around, or language around short-term rentals, and that definition is, again, not unique to Londonderry, it's statewide.
Any other comments? Yes,
Are you asking for comments or questions?
comments. Well, comments or questions?
Sure, I'd like to make a comment.
Sure, if you want to come up, please.
That's going to say, wow.
My name is Patty Eisenhower. I am chair of the Londonderry Housing Commission, and I'm also a resident. If possible, I'd like to speak on both behalfs.
Can't
Okay.
read from paper.
The short,
Patty?
Yes.
You can't read from a paper. We don't allow
Okay.
speeches.
it's not a speech, but because I'm nervous, I just
Okay.
prepared some
Well,
comments.
is there any objection to Patty reading because she's nervous?
So the short-term rental amendments are intended, Andy described them, so I'm not going to go through the intentions, but I will make a point that they are intended to slow the further loss of housing stock available to people who want to call Londonderry home. On behalf of the Londonderry Housing Commission, we support the amendments to the ordinance as adopted by the Select Board and encourage town voters to vote nay on the article to disapprove these amendments. While the amendments won't prevent the loss of our limited housing stock, it does take an important step to slow the conversion of existing housing into full-time STRs. These amendments preserve the ability of both full and part-time residents to rent their properties on a short, seasonal, or long-term basis. Ultimately, we believe the town should place caps on the number of short-term rentals as a percentage of housing units, similar to other resort towns in Vermont and other states. Now I'll take my Housing Commission hat off and speak as a resident. The amendments to the SDR ordinance are not about affordable housing, and they're not about locals versus second homeowners. Plain and simple, the amendments are about slowing the ongoing conversion of our limited housing stock into full-time lodging establishments by speculative investors who have no plans to live or work in our communities. These amendments don't ban STRs, as some have stated, and I agree they won't solve the housing crisis. No one has made that claim. As cited in the Londonderry housing study in 2020, just over 50% of our housing units were owned or rented by Londonderry residents. Fast forward to July 2025, data from our town assessor, only 32% of properties have been declared as homesteads. As the housing study concluded, it's about balance. The balance between year-round housing and seasonal home buyers and short-term rental operators may threaten the viability and sustainability of Londonderry as a vibrant, year-round community unless strategic interventions are made. That's the conclusion of the study. Yes, we need to build more primary housing. This includes affordable housing for our workforce, smaller housing units for seniors that want to downsize and remain in the community, and now, importantly, housing for families to sustain Floodbrook School in our community long-term. Slowing the conversion of housing units into full-time short-term rentals is just one of the interventions that should be considered. We as a community need to focus on how we can leverage our successful visitor economy to enhance the vitality of our entire community, which will benefit both residents and visitors. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any other comments or questions? Jim?
My name is Jim Wilmer. I'm a resident. I have a simple question. If I currently have 3 STRs on my property and I sell my property, does that privilege to rent those 3 go with the sale?
Who can answer that?
I can, the answer is no, as amended.
Here and then here. I'm sorry. Yes.
I don't have it, I don't.
Can you come on up to the microphone, please? Thanks for making the trip.
I don't have that question, but I have a question about his question. Is that if he sells his house to someone who then lives here in the main building, does it transfer or it still doesn't transfer?
Have to wait 1 year, right? As amended.
You've complicated the question a little bit, and they're both good ones. A hosted short-term rental is defined as a property where the owner lives and is on site, either on the property or on the premises during rental activity. So a great example in South Londonderry is a main house and a barn apartment. So someone lives in the main house and there's homesteaded there. That's a hosted rental, right?
Yeah, so then if that was the case with the new owner, that's my question.
Yes.
Then it would remain the same if they wanted to continue renting and they lived on the property.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And to Jim's question, it's just a numbers count. So if you imagine selling a property that has, was it that there are 3 units on it or owns 3 different properties? Could you clarify that, Jim? Because I think it's...
I was trying to say if a resident who lived there, right?
Yeah.
Had 3 separate buildings on their property.
Oh.
Which were then SPR'd, then would that privilege to rent those continue?
Okay. Yeah, so that, thank you for clarifying that. Those are all considered hosted rentals, and they would continue to be licensed as hosted rentals. The amendments that have a restriction on the number of owned properties, that is for unhosted only. So, yeah, a property that has 3 rental units on the same property, that privilege would transfer to a new...
And the risk of being redundant, hosted means the rental is indeed on the properties that you own. That's one contiguous property.
Yeah, well, where you own and reside during, yes.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? Well, can you raise your hand? So I think
Oh, I'm gonna pass for now.
Okay,
That was answered pretty much.
okay. Come on up. And your name?
My name's Dan McKenna, resident, live up on Middletown Road. I actually was one of the people that helped start this petition, and I just wanted to tell you folks why we did it. One, I felt that there wasn't a lot of town involvement when the short-term rental group committee met in January. They had 5 or 6 meetings. They did reach out to our community to get some input on it. They did warn it to the bare minimum, or I guess the state requirements of posting it at the town hall, post office, and on the website. I just felt that it would have been great if that group had reached out to the community in January and February to help get some more input, instead of just having the 6 people that were all against short-term rentals be part of that committee. I felt it was very biased one way. It would have been great to have more people involved. And now we're here to be involved, so. I also felt on the committee that was running the short-term rentals that there was a conflict of interest with one of the individuals that had put their neighbor into litigation and was in active litigation in January and February, making all these rules. That person should have reclused themselves from the process and stepped aside. That was one of my thoughts there. I also feel that the group did not do the proper economic impact study that should have been done to show that the short-term rentals bring a lot of money to this town, support a lot of communities, and that's really my main thing, was that this is an economic situation. That if 10 of these homes sell, in the next, that are short-term rentals in the next 5 to 10 years, we're taking beds out of the community, money out of the community, jobs out of the community, and that's what's really important to this community, to thrive and be economically successful as a state, or as a town. And I think this, a lot of people are saying that we don't want to be Ludlow, we don't want to be like Breckenridge, we don't want to be like all these other communities. Don't bring their problems to us. Look at the statistics of our town. We have Andy's doing a great job of gathering information. I felt that this happened very quickly, very quietly, without a lot of community involvement that affects 1,500 homes. And I think if we wait another 6 months and go back after a year of data that Andy's going to gather of what these homes are. When we went to the select board a couple weeks ago, we asked how many of these short-term rentals are investors. Head of the board didn't know. They don't know. How many hotel rooms? I don't know. How many long-term rentals do you have in town? I don't know. They didn't do the proper study to get this right. And that's what I think we need to do, is vote nay on this, step back, wait 6 months, look at the data that Andy's going to gather, and make the right decision for this town. Not because somebody's got some personal beefs on these committees that are affecting all of us. And that's not what this is what about. This is about a community that should get involved, use the data to make the right decision, not your personal beefs with your neighbors or whatever you have. So I did this with some other members of the community to get community involvement. And I think we all of us that did this, we were all for the safety reasons of this. It's all about making sure the property's running correctly, safely, and done right. We were really opposed to the 1-year moratorium, which would eliminate a lot of people, a lot of beds in town, people coming to support our community and spending money and hiring our caretakers, our cleaning people, spending money in the restaurants. And then to limit that to 50 nights, that came out of nowhere. Just because, oh, we are seasonal, just renting in ski seasons, okay? The biggest part of our community is year-round recreation. That's what we are. We are a recreational community. We thrive on these people coming to our town. And that's what this is about. So I suggest we all vote against, or actually for. I agree. So I started this whole thing with our members of the community because I think we need to step back, not make rash decisions that affect 1,500 homes for the next couple of years. We'd have to redo it, and I think that was very short. So thank you for listening, appreciate it.
Bruce, did you have something? And then Steve, I see you.
Just mentioned, Bruce Brown, resident, just the 50 days did seem kind of arbitrary, and if anybody has any comments on that number of the limiting of short-term rental 50 days is my question.
Okay, is your question is why 50 days?
Why is it, and what's
Okay.
the justification for it?
The 50-day number, I'll talk second about where the number comes from, but just to clarify, if a property were transferred, so there was a new owner who wanted to make it rental property, that is absolutely allowed, so long as it's a long-term rental. But there is no delay on the long-term renting or leasing of a newly acquired property, nor, because of the definition of a short-term rental, is there any regulation that would stop a new property owner from doing short-term rentals, 2 weeks in December and 2 weeks again in January, because that stays below the 15-day cap before the definition kicks in. So the 50 nights is only short-term rental activity. In other words, a place could be long-term rented, by the month for 10 months of the year, and then short-term rented for 50 days of the remaining 2 months. The number itself that came out of committee discussions from January through April, there were 10 public meetings, and that number came from looking at caps in towns all over the United States that had a few more years of experience regulating short-term rentals. Because Londonderry, maybe by Vermont standards, is fairly new to the or sort of senior in the regulation world, but there are places all over the country that have 2 or 3 or 4 more years of experience with this. And so the committee looked at those numbers and then looked also at the data we had of the current rental volume. In other words, how many nights are the Londonderry specific short-term rentals operating, and we picked a median number. In other words, 50 seemed like a number that represented, half or more than that, and half or fewer than that. And so it seemed scaled to the amount of activity. That could be updated now because I have more information, a lot of reporting by operators in town of their rental activity, and also we have 3 more months of information. So, that could be tuned a little bit, but that was the research that went into the selection of the count. Is that helpful? Yeah.
Steve is next.
I'm Steve Twitchell. I'm a resident here in Londonderry, lifelong resident. What got me involved with paying attention to this, I'm also on the planning commission. This is something we talk about occasionally. But I'm here to talk about it as a citizen. There was a flyer passed around to many folks that was full of misinformation. It referred to this as, it inferred it as a blanket ban. Far from it. When I saw that, it got my anger up because there are truly issues that can be honestly debated. But this was portrayed in what I felt a dishonest fashion. it might affect a couple, 3 homes a year. Doesn't affect existing stock. Doesn't affect anybody that wants to live here and operate an ADU as opposed to Airbnb. And a lot of thought went into this. Warned meetings that were not well attended by the public, but they were there, and they discussed a myriad of things. And they used input from the Housing Commission, Wyndham Regional Commission, state law, precedent in other towns. If you compare our ordinance to other towns, ours is very mild. The impact economically is going to be almost non-existent. It's a few properties potentially over the course of a year or two. The fact that it was presented in this honest fashion, and Airbnb being a huge billion-dollar corporation influencing elections around the world and even in localities. We have a tradition in Vermont to really not welcome the big box store type companies. And I don't see this as being any different, and I encourage people to vote yes.
No, next.
Excuse me, to vote no. Vote no, so that we can keep the ordinance. A lot of hard work went into it. There was a lot of angst and discussion. Some of the folks wanted to go a lot further. I feel like they made a very reasonable decision on coming up with this. And I want to thank them for their hard work.
Yeah, I'm Michael Sozik. Andy, you said you had 3 more months of data that wasn't used previously to determine the 50 days. Can you share that with us, please?
I haven't gone through all the numbers that, well, let me backtrack. To renew a short-term rental license, the original ordinance required that a short-term rental operator in town report on their nights of activity. And just because we're only 3 weeks into the renewal year right now, and so while I've received 4 dozen reports, I haven't gone through and crunched all those numbers yet. And partly it's a formatting thing. It would be really easy if there was a number at the end of each report saying how many nights a year somebody rented, but instead it's often just a collection of dates, so I've got to go through and add those up. So I've glanced at them. Some are, well, I don't know that they're going to change the arithmetic in a significant way. I need to process that to see how close it was to that. The important thing to me is where's the median? I mean, because that was sort of the process that the short-term rental advisory group used. So it's incomplete, and I don't want to offer you a false promise, but there are a number of STRs in town that have a lot of traffic, like up to 200 nights in a calendar year, and then there are some that are really modest. I mean, some people licensed their place and then only rented 9 nights in the year, and so they really didn't need to register because that's not enough traffic to need to. So there were numbers that were higher than I was expecting and also lower than I was expecting. And what I don't know is, did the median shift? Is the halfway point 60 nights? Is it 40? So and I don't, I wish I could give you a quick and firm answer on that, but I'm in the process as I'm re-enrolling people of looking at how their numbers compare to the monitoring software that we have that has an estimate of the number of nights that each rental operates.
Okay. over here next.
Hi, I'm Bill Cincigali. I'm part of the STR committee and the Housing Commission. I have a couple of clarifications and a comment. Clarifications are, I think there was a referral to someone who was in litigation with a neighbor. I think the referral was to me. I had disagreements with my neighbor, but I was not involved in litigation, so that's clarification number one. Clarification number two, I'm not aware of any member of the Housing Commission, I'm not aware of any member, including myself, of the STR committee, that are against STRs. As Patty put very well, the point was to slow the growth of STRs in the community. No matter who owns an STR, no matter how many you have, everybody's grandfathered. So it's only for new registrations of unhosted property that has a cap. I've heard comments about year-round economics, etc. I haven't heard, maybe Andy could address it, that there's 100% capacity in November or during mud season or even during winter or foliage. Sure, occupancy is high, but I haven't heard somebody say there's no Airbnbs, there's no motel rooms available. The issues for this town are availability of housing. It's a crisis in the state, and it's a real problem here. If we keep losing residents, make an argument about revenues, I don't have the facts to debate it. What I can tell you is when stores can't have workers, when teachers can't be hired to live locally, when Mountain Valley, which I'm on the council of, has trouble attracting healthcare professionals because they got to drive 45, 50 minutes to come in and do their job. It's a real problem. We lose Floodbrook, it's a real problem. So if I'm a business, I want residents who are going to be in here 365 days a year to buy my product or use my services. Not some transients, that's great. Add to the economy, but we need a balance. So I encourage everybody to support the amendment and vote nay on the motion to turn it down. Thank you.
There's someone in the back and then someone toward the front. I know, I'm sorry, the woman had her hand up first.
Okay, you go.
Okay.
Hi, Joe Sotero.
Joe, are you a resident of
I'm a resident of Londonderry. Yep, I'm Coburn's way, registered voter. So I just wanted to pose a question and then I have a follow-up question. Do you actually know the average night of all, like the average nights that each Airbnb or that Airbnbs in Vermont or in Londonderry, any of those figures per like per year? Do you know the average night that they are occupied?
The 50, when I referred to the 50 night
I'm referring to, do you know, in the town of Londonderry, do you know the average number of nights that one Airbnb is occupied for an entire calendar year? Do you have any of that data?
I can look it up for every property, but as an average,
yes.
Average and mean are different, but the 50-night cap came from looking at the volume in Londonderry renters. So half of them are below 50 nights in a calendar year.
Okay, that's fine. That wasn't my question. But essentially what I'm trying to get at is that obviously people have talked about the economic impact that it brings to the town to restrict the number of nights that Airbnbs are going to be rented. Obviously hosted, unhosted. Ultimately, at the end of the day, this housing crisis of not having long-term housing is not an issue of Airbnb. Patty, explain that obviously the goal here is to slow that down, but there are numerous economic impacts that will, whether it's, the availability of low-income housing versus, the houses that are actually getting rented and being used as Airbnbs. Those are not all transferable to long-term rentals. So the concern here with regulating these ordinances is obviously the local economy, because like everyone in this town lives here, they love to enjoy this town, local businesses, love supporting everyone who started small businesses. In the state of Vermont, most of our revenue comes from tourism. I don't know what the exact figure is, but like there's a large portion of our revenue that comes from tourism, maybe not most of it, but the effect that this is going to have on our local businesses, there are plenty of restaurants and plenty of landscaping companies, plenty of caretakers, plenty of cleaners. There are people's lives that are going to be stripped away. You're talking about taking beds away from people. You're talking about taking jobs away from people when you're talking about restricting these Airbnbs. And I mean, I know that like a lot of people are upset. They have personal grievances with people with Airbnbs. Not everyone loves the tourism and people coming into their town, but essentially that's what supports these communities and allows these businesses to run full year round. So, I mean, I know plenty of people who have had to close down shop, and plenty of people that have had to make adjustments and cut costs and let people go because of the lack of foot traffic that comes through these towns. So I think that it's unfair to try to keep people out of these communities, let these people enjoy our town. So essentially that's all that I have to say. I think we need to do more research. I think we need to look at the actual economic impact that this is going to have, and I think we need to think about the people that are in the community that are supporting these businesses, not just the people that are unhappy with transient or travelers. So.
Here, and then someone has a hand up front too. No, I think just behind you. Is there someone there? And then you can have your hand up. I don't want to.
Figured you sent out to us.
Come on up. Yes.
My name is Jessica Satira. I live in Londonderry. I have a short-term rental. And I am one of the people who went around to get the petition signed for the amendments. The biggest concern that I had with the amendments was the limitation on nights, to basically telling the property owner how many nights they can rent their house. People do have property owner rights with the state. And I went to the select board and I asked to see a copy of the research that they did to come to this number. Andy put together a very long email of what was considered. And there were a lot of concerns that I had. There was a lot of questions that the select board could not answer. I asked them how many homeowners use their short-term rental and offset their costs to make it more affordable to teach their kids how to ski in the winter and they rent it in the summer. We don't know that number. We don't know how many long-term rentals are in the town of Londonderry. And the short-term rentals, I hear comments that these big investors are coming in, buying up these big party houses. I asked how many complaints there were. I heard there were 5 written complaints and 4 verbal. That was about correct. I did some research myself. Steve, the research that I did was with the Vermont Short-Term Rental Alliance. They spent a lot of money to create this. There was an economic study on tourism that the state of Vermont did in 2023. That's where we get our $4 billion, 9.3% of our income into the state. And about $395 million comes into the county of Wyndham, and it trickles down into our towns. So then I started realizing there's grandfathered houses, great, we have so many lodging rooms, Magic needs it, they have no lodging. So I started doing a little research and I called around to the hotels. There's about 42 hotel rooms in town, and they're not providing a variety of quality lodging options. Once these, Sorry, I didn't know which button. So I got to 42, that was my research. So we don't have a lot of hotel rooms in this town. Then I started doing the numbers on real estate because I also sell real estate. So I started doing real estate research and realized that once these houses start to sell, you lose 315 lodging rooms per house. If 10 of those houses sell in the next 2 years, it's going to restrict tourism into our town, which on a long-term span is going to affect our local economy. It's going to affect how many people go to the market, how many people go to Max's, how many people are going to buy season passes or ski magic. And I think that that one change to the amendment was not researched properly. And I think that there needs to be a little bit more time to consider that. And I think that there is a little bit of a concern with the fact that, you know, unhosted and hosted comes down to non-homestead and homestead. Second homeowners pay taxes in this town, as we do, as local people. And their property rights, they have to be able to do, they have to be given an opportunity to do the same business as locals do. It's rights that they have under the Constitution. You cannot favor locals. It's an Interstate Commerce Act. So that is another concern that I have. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, right there.
Amy Corwin, I'm a state resident and a town resident. I vote here. The 50-day thing, as I understand it, let me see if I can find it and read it. It's not a speech. Can't find it. Unhosted places is where the 50-day applies, and it applies for the first registration, not for re-registration. The previous speaker, I heard, and maybe I'm old and deaf, said something about one house with 315 rooms for rent? Per year. That was unclear. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay. You've already spoken, so we have to wait to the end. So, right here. Yep. And then here.
My name is Anna Stoddard.
Anna, can you come on up, please? Thank you.
So I just want to say that, because people have said it about people having landscape businesses and caretaking businesses and cleaning businesses. I have a cleaning business. And by saying what I'm going to say, I could be taking away from picking up extra work. But with that said, being busy all the time in the wintertime, being busy all the time in the summertime is not something I want to do, and I can't speak on anybody else. But with having more people here, renting Airbnbs, it creates that work. In order to create that work, you have to have people work for you. And in order to have people work for you, you have to have a place for them to live. Or for them to have to drive however far to come to be able to work for your businesses, to be able to run your businesses and do your business. So with there being so many Airbnbs or people renting every week or whatever, it creates way more work, it causes way more stress, and eventually people are going to get burned out from working all the time, being busy in the winter and being in the summer. That's all I have to say.
My name is
Can you come on up,
Donald
please?
Booth. I own the Snowden Shop.
I'm sorry, can you come on up?
Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't have to.
I know I didn't, I should have. Just trying to be,
I'll walk you.
there you go.
I appreciate that. My name is Dominic Bruton. I own the Snowden Chalet Motel, and I want to make a clarification
One thing I just heard a few moments ago about motel rooms in Londonderry, and you said there was 42. We never got a call, so I don't know if you included us in your number. There was only 2 of us that own it, and we never, either one of us spoke to you. And we've also had some of our other friends here that own lodging establishments, and we're, we would say, about 90 rooms that we have. So if you're saying there's only 42, and we can't meet the demand, that's just not true. I just wanted a clarification, because someone's speaking on behalf of my business. So, thank you.
All right. We go here and then in the back.
Hi, I'm Maya. My husband and I own the Londonderry Inn for 25 years, and we have 25 rooms. We've seen the phenomenon of Airbnb in our town, and the result has been that we have found a great need to provide housing for the workers that are, coming, working either seasonally or they renew and stay for another season, some of them for years. People cannot afford to live here. We have hotel rooms. We have 25 rooms, but what we're using it for is for what the real need is. It's not for more people to come stay for the weekend. That's not what the demand is for. We're getting calls of people that cannot afford to live in this town, and they have jobs, there's lots of jobs available, but they can't afford to live here and then go and fill those jobs. So there really is a need for affordable housing, as everyone knows, and that really is a great need. I think the Planning Commission and Select Board have been working really hard to try to protect a sense of neighborhood and community. And I value that just as a resident. To me, the economics are important, but also quality of life and people having neighbors that they know and that they see every day, rather than new faces every single weekend and people that come up to have recreation, but then they're gone. And it just kind of, we lose our sense of community and a sense of neighborhood. And all the friends, it's just people are going to leave, they won't be able to afford to live here if property values just keep going up, and property taxes with them. So I realize that putting limits on future, weekend stays, for investors, basically, that are not here, it may seem like it's not solving the housing need, but I think it is a small step in the right direction. And one thing I'm going to say, and this could end up hurting our income to say this, but there's nothing in the amendments that prevent people from renting investment properties for a season, for the entire winter, to a family that wants to go ski, or for a whole summer, or to rent year-round. So if people really want a rental property as an investment property, they can rent their property 360 days a year, as long as it is for more than 30 days at a time. They could have seasonal rentals without any limitation, from my understanding. So this is not really limiting people's ability to rent their properties, but more just creating for people not to be having this constant turnover year-round of strangers, just coming in who don't really care about maybe the impact they have, on the sense of neighborhood and community. So, either way, whichever way the vote goes, we'll either have more people looking for hotel rooms, or we'll have more people looking for affordable housing. So it doesn't really affect us, that much. But our sense of what it's like to walk to the post office or to see neighbors in town, I'm worried about losing that. It was in Floodwood School, and even I think about trunk or treat and all the kids, and I don't really want this town to just turn into a bunch of Airbnb properties with no sense of neighborhood or community, and that matters to me even more than economics. So anyway, thanks for listening.
Hey everyone, I'm Levi Dryden, lived here my whole life. Have a business in the area, caretaking, something that my dad started, 35 years ago. there's always been rentals in this property, in this area, always. And one of the things that's changed is this. Everybody can see, hey, my neighbor has somebody, he just rented, I just see that. And one of the other things is, well, that house over there never used to get rented in the summer. It was really nice in the community because there was nobody there. We had our friends out, it was great. Things have changed, but I feel like Londonderry is starting to fast track again. We had an ordinance, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. We were fast tracking, we were limiting people how long they could work. I feel like here we are again. I talked to a lot of my second homeowners. They're like, you know what, I don't even feel like I belong to this community. I'm speaking for them. I see people in the corner, they can't say anything, they can, but it's not going to change, they can't vote. It's not fair to tell somebody they can only rent their place for 50 nights. Tell somebody 1 year after you own it, you can rent it. That means that house won't get the lawn mowed weekly, because why would they? I've seen this. It's happening. I remember when I was little, Dad, we gotta mow this lawn, it's so long. The people are never here in the summer, they don't care. Well, the neighbor lives there full time. God, I really wish they'd take care of that property. Well, guess what? That property now is an Airbnb, gets mowed weekly, has garden maintenance. That's beautiful. That's what happens. Yes, I'm sure there's people that have an Airbnb next to their property that has a party. It happens. They call the state police, which usually turns into a 2-hour thing. I really think that the 50 nights in the 1 year is showing people that are outside of this community, if they want to buy in here, they're like, you know what, I don't even feel welcome. So that's just where I sit on this. A lot of these Airbnb properties that I take care of, they're about $600,000, and a lot of them, they said, you know what, if this goes through, we're going to sell. Me personally, I can't buy a $600,000 house. Nobody. My age, it's very hard. So I think we're going to end up with somebody that buys it, doesn't rent it for a year, turns into a disaster. They only use it for the winter. And that's it. I don't think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Can Andy give some thoughts? Andy, you mentioned too that some people are switching over long-term rentals.
The town of Londonderry offers an enormous amount of information about the housing stock. It's through the listers page, and the data seems pertinent about both the purchase dates and the assessed value of the houses that are currently in the short-term rental stock. There were 99 properties that registered as short-term rentals in the first year of the program. 60 of those 99 were transferred to new owners in the last 5 years. I can give you the sale date of all the properties, but just to group them, 60 out of the 99 are from sales since 2020. The value, the assessed value of houses in the short-term rental group are as follows, and this is, the numbers are, I looked at 72 of the 99, and the reason I reduced them is that it is tough to judge the value of a house that has the hosted that has a second, the apartment or the cottage. You can't find a value for the cottage or the apartment because it's bundled with the multiple properties on one. So here's the data on on 72 of the unhosted rentals. By the way, this is 72 of 80. So there are 19 hosted rentals in town, 80 unhosted rentals. The data on the 72, here are the assessed values. At under $100,000 of assessed value, there's one property. In the $100,000 to $200,000 value range, there are 22 properties. In the $200,000 to $300,000 range, there are 29. In the $300,000 to $400,000 range, there are 6. In the $400,000 to $500,000 range, there are 5. And above $500,000, there are none. This means that 72%, or 52 of the 72 housing units that are currently in the STR stock are valued at below $300,000.
I have a question.
Well, you already spoke, so we have to wait to the end if you want to hold that question. Sandy.
Yes, I just want to say, Andy gave you some numbers, and he gave you some assessed values. You have to remember, the assessed values that he is giving you are based on the 2018 reappraisal. You always go back to the last reappraisal. We are due to start another reappraisal in 2026, finish in 2028. So those numbers that he gave you, with the less than 300 and this, that's going to drastically change when you do the next reappraisal. Common level of appraisal, actually this year was 65.62. So as close to 100,000 or 100%, we're way down. We dropped like a stone. That's why we were mandated to do this reappraisal. But when you talk about assessments, remember, you're always talking your last reappraisal, 2018.
Any other comments? Yes.
Actually, Marjorie Gage, Londonderry resident, long time. Could you just revisit exactly who will be impacted by this amendment? I've heard a lot of conversation. Levi just spoke about the potential of people not being able to rent their properties. But of course, my understanding of the amendment is they're not impacted by it. They can continue to rent it at whatever level they choose. I think it would be very helpful to clear the air about exactly who will be impacted.
So the restriction on nights applies to unhosted rentals only and future unhosted rentals. In other words, everyone currently registered as the owner-operator of an unhosted property continues to do that so long as they own the property and continue to re-enroll annually with the town, as long as they own the property. If they were to sell it or transfer it to a new owner, then the restrictions are introduced then on that same property. So again, everybody who's currently operating one is exempt from the nightly cap. And obviously they already own it, so there's no delay in the renting. The hosted group is not affected at all, and the long-term or seasonal rental operator is not affected because this is only a short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Pete Cobb.
Pete Cobb, I'm a resident of Londonderry. I'm just generally speaking, personally, I'm 100% in favor of these regulations. I think the committee did a great job in doing it, and it only slows down these short-term rentals. It's still open. I think they should stay in place, give it a year and a half, see what happens. and then they could be amended down the road. I think Londonderry faces a huge crisis, and it's concerning housing, affordable housing. We don't have enough. I think the short-term rentals has increased the price of property, but we need people moving into town, living here, raising kids, working in town, and there's not that many affordable places for that to happen. All departments, fire departments, rescue squad need volunteers. We can only get volunteers by people living here permanently. Short-term rentals is not the answer. So generally, I think for the best of the town, or for the future of town, we need affordable housing and more people moving here.
Okay. Any other comments?
Pamela Spalding, I'm a resident. I'm also on the Planning Commission, Housing Commission, the Londonderry Long-Term Recovery Committee. I attend as many select board, DRB, and wastewater committee meetings as I can. I feel it is everybody's responsibility to look at the posted website as required by the Vermont Open Meeting Law, where the ordinance was posted not only under the short-term rental committee minutes, but also on the select board meeting packet before they took the vote. That's it.
Any other comments? Anyone? Okay, we have, go ahead.
Hi, Dennis, the resident. I just have a clarifying question. If we disagree with a part of this whole procedure, this is either a yes or no vote, am I correct?
Yes.
At this point, and there was talk of amendments potentially. When would those amendments happen if this does pass or not pass?
So I can address it, or you can address it if you like.
So the short-term rental working group will meet every year before July. I believe, when were we done this year? May?
We have to be done by May.
We have to be done by May, so the ordinance, because the ordinance takes 60 days to go into effect. So we started this year in December, and we met 10 times, and so next year we'll do the same thing again.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other comments? You've spoken already, let's get everybody. We do have hands raised from, I think, folks sitting who are non-residents. So to be able to speak as a non-resident, you have to speak by unanimous consent. And we can either take each one separately, or we can determine whether there's going to be objection to these comments. Why don't we take them in turn, and we can see if there's objection. So, the young woman in the back, had your hand up. Will you give us your name, please?
Hi, I'm Cecilia. Sorry.
No, I'm not going to ask you your comment yet. We're going to determine whether there's.
I didn't know if you wanted that. Okay.
Well, you can tell me your name and where you're from.
Oh, okay. My name is still Cecilia. I'm from a small town just on the seacoast of New Hampshire, but I visit Vermont, Maine. I do stay at Airbnbs, but I just kind of general.
Okay. So, does anyone object to Cecilia speaking at the meeting?
No. Let her speak.
Any objection?
No.
Okay, you had a question, Cecilia?
Yeah. you want me to come up or do you guys?
Sure.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey guys, I don't have my glasses on, so now I can see all of you. Okay. So I just had a general question from listening to all of you guys like talking about short-term rentals, doing affordable housing, and doing that for people. My question is whether or not we have like a game plan. Like, is there a game plan with, because if someone just buys like a property up here and they can't rent it out, and like say they are an investor that has money, that house is still gonna sit. Like, how, is there like a plan, like I'm reading over everything, is there a plan on how you're gonna motivate those people that have those houses to offer that as long-term housing? Or like, that was just my general question.
Okay. Does anybody have an
You want to
answer?
speak to that, Andy? As far as people renting long term?
The ordinance doesn't include a plan for people's use of their housing outside of short-term rental activity, but if you're asking about what somebody might do with a house in the first year of ownership, it's, as one of the earlier residents said, it can be rented 365 days a year on a lease or on a monthly basis or on a a seasonal basis. So that is unrestricted and unregulated by the town. Not to get too far off topic and talk about housing commission work, but there's been discussion on and with the Londonderry Housing Commission about looking for ways to partner with organizations that create incentives for properties to move from short-term renting to long-term renting. So the timing of that seems very good. We just had a session about that last month, I guess it was, and there's a local connection to an organization that does that nationally. But I don't want to
It's just like listening to everybody like saying like, oh, like they can offer like the housing, but like if you're set on a 50-day rental, or like if you're after that year is up and you're making a lot of income on Airbnb for like multiple months, then like that long-term rent, like your monthly rate might be increased because you want to like either match income, or I was just putting the thought out that maybe add that and think about that, because I think there'd still be an impact and you're not getting the outcome that you want in that regards. That's it.
Also, just the select board chair had asked me to add too, that in the renewal process, a number of people who were operating short-term rentals last year have decided to move those to long-term rental status. So I think we're up to 6 now, I think, that have gone that route. Instead of paying the fee to re-register, they've made the choice to go long-term. Please.
And Cecilia, your last name, please?
Sorry.
Can you spell it, please? Because I can't.
Bihari.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, any comments? Okay, so another non-resident, will you stand and tell us your name and where you're from?
Yeah, hi. I'm Adria Escalante. I'm a part-time resident. You probably know me.
Before you, so let's, is there any objection? I'm sorry, your first name?
Adria
Andrea.
And do you have your last name?
Escalante.
Escalante. Okay. Is there any objection to, and do you say where you live?
I live here part-time.
And where do you live when you're not here part-time?
I live in Texas, in Austin, Texas.
Okay. Is there any objection to, I'm sorry, your first name?
Andrea.
Andrea. Speaking?
No.
There's no objection. Come on up.
Hi, I'm super nervous. Sorry. I don't like talking to people in public. So I just want to say, I feel like this, first of all, I'm going to say, I am part of this community. We are part of this community very much. And public speaking is not my thing. I need to be like Toastmaster or whatever. We don't Airbnb, we don't short-term rental our home. We've been renovating it, which is why we live here part-time currently. However, I think that this is rushed. It's very restrictive. And one of the things that I have the biggest problem with is actually the introduction to, and I don't have it in front of me, and I also don't have my glasses. I couldn't read it if I did. It reads very much like this is, about safety and community. The vast majority of people here that have spoken about the housing crisis. I really don't believe, and studies also would back that up, that this is not going to solve that housing crisis issue, but instead it's just putting restrictions on homeowners. Regardless of if you live here full-time or part-time, whether you short-term rent your house now, or maybe one of your lives is going to change in the future and you have to live somewhere else and you want the ability part-time to do that, this is very restrictive. You should consider, we should get more data, as that gentleman was like exceptional back there, and kind of consider the impacts of all of that before we make a rash decision. It just doesn't make sense. The numbers don't make sense. The restrictions don't make sense. And the fact that we are not distinguishing between second homeowners and investors. Second homeowners are part of this community. Investors who are buying up homes and maybe using them for short-term rentals are not part of this community. There should be a distinction there. I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand my story. So anyway, that's really all I have to say. I really want to thank everybody who's included us when they've been speaking. That was very kind. And yeah, we are part of the community. So just keep that in mind. Thanks,
Yeah, you in the back.
My name is Helen Hammond. I live in Londonderry, and it seems to me that the biggest thing that I hear is that they didn't have enough, people have not had enough input, or that the 50 days is arbitrary and we should do something else. But then we also just heard that the impact is going to be on people who are buying now. So why don't we just say, okay, we've set this up with the best intentions, a lot of work was put into it, let's say, okay, we've already heard they're going to re-meet in January, we can change the date. I mean, that's not such a big deal. Why wash the baby, throw away the baby with the dishwasher? Let's keep this and evaluate it based on data in January. And then we can revise it then. But throwing away just seems to be ridiculous. You know, it's only going to affect new homeowners. So when you look at new owners, it changes that. That's it. Thank you.
Yes.
Jay Ruckman, resident. I think this is a question of clarification. Your question may have just answered it, but I just want to be clear. So my understanding that the STR committee meets regularly or annually, and annually can revisit the ordinance and potentially make amendments in the future. So for example, the question about this number of 50 could be revisited or amended in the future specifically?
Yes, we meet annually to go over the short-term rental ordinance to see if there's any changes that need to be made, so it can always be changed every year.
So not throwing out the baby with the bathwater, I just have to. Thank you.
Okay, anyone hasn't spoken?
I'm Bartlett Thomas, Londonderry resident, short-term rental owner. Two things. I agree with everyone saying don't throw the baby with the water, whatever it is. However, Andy stood up a short while ago and said, 3 months ago he didn't have the same amount of data that he has now. So he said that, the 50 days could be revised. So my question now is, since the ordinance has not been in place and we're only looking for an amendment to certain parts of it, the 50 nights and the 1 year, why should we then instate the 50 nights knowing that there was a lack of data? Why don't we gather the data before and then do the appropriate, whatever you want, the 50 nights to 60 nights, but at least we have the data to support the number that you come up with, instead of putting in the number before we have the data. So next year we're going to be like, okay, 60 nights because now we have this, or 150 nights. I'm just saying, and with regards to the whole 2-hour town meeting, I think what Dan was getting to earlier was, if I understand that, yes, people can look at the 3 outlets that the meetings were advertised in, but this is what we should have done before we got to this point, because everybody here has some opinion about it. So if the community was involved prior, we wouldn't be in this situation, no. So all I'm saying is the 50 nights, I'd say we vote, okay, I don't want to get this wrong. We vote yes, and that means we're disapproving the amendment.
Yes.
So I say we vote yes to disapprove it, and then Andy can get all the data instead of, doing it backwards, like, I don't know, throwing on the bed with throwing on the wash water and realizing the bed is in the wash water. So that's my thing. I say we get the data then instated, and again, not in disagreement with the ordinance itself. Everybody wants their homes to be safe and, our visitors to be safe. It's just two parts of the ordinance. That's it.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone that hasn't spoken that would like to speak? Okay. From those folks, well, we'll go to second round and last.
A couple of quick comments. I'd like to finish by maybe having somebody send a motion to vote. But I hear a lot about the 50 nights. I just think a couple of interesting things. One is, again, to reiterate, no restriction on the number of nights for anyone that owns an STR. Someone can still buy a second home and have 50 nights to help support owning that home. If 50 nights isn't enough, it might be difficult for somebody to own a house in the first place. The other thing I'd throw out there,
Excuse me, just a second. Folks, we're trying to listen to speakers, so if we can not speak while the speaker's speaking, that would help.
the other thought that occurred to me is that unless I'm a short-term rental owner currently, and I have too much demand, I can't fill the demand for my property, well, I would want this amendment to slow down the growth of short-term rental units in town. If nothing else, it reduces some level of competition, and I don't think anybody here is running at 50, 60, 70, 80% occupancy at any point in the year. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me this ordinance actually is also favoring existing short-term rental owners. So, guys, if you're a current short-term rental owner and you're considering voting this down, I would think about it from that perspective. So that's it. Hope we can vote soon.
Okay, so we have one and then the other. So we'll start.
Pamela Spalding. It's my understanding that if you vote yea to disapprove or no to approve the amendment, that is not only just about the 1 year or the 50 nights, it is the whole portion of the amendments that also include things about trash removal and the Knox box. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And
Just to go on with that, it seems to me if you read only the underlined portions, which are the amendments we're considering, most of those amendments have to do with safety and health and I think they're important. I think a 50-day thing is the one which gets the most discussion, and frankly, I think probably the 50-day thing can wait a year while the short-term rental committee reconsiders it with perhaps aided data. Furthermore, the term A or Airbnb is a trademarked property of a big corporation. We're talking about short-term rentals, not Airbnbs in general, which might be under other parts of this, like bed and breakfast, which are not considered under this ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Annie Teacup.
I'd like to call the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, to call the motion, we need a 2/3 vote to, so we have the motion, we have that seconded and then seconded. Okay, so all in favor of calling the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. I think we're going to call the motion. Do you have a question
I'd
about
like
the
to
motion?
move that it be a paper ballot.
Okay, so we have a motion to, well, it's not a motion, it's a request for a paper ballot. And to have a paper ballot, we need 6 more supporters of paper ballot. We have 1 more, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to have a paper ballot. Okay.
Do you want to go over how you vote?
Yeah, hey guys, wait up. Wait. Don't move yet. Don't move yet.
Explain that process.
Okay. We're going to try to do this in a smooth and orderly fashion. Okay. So, you have a question about the vote.
Just review one more time what the yes vote means and what the no vote means.
Yes, exactly. That's one of the things I'm getting to. So, folks, what we're going to do is we're going to, everyone, well, if you've been to a meeting before, you know you're going to come up, you're going to need to be a registered voter in Londonderry to vote. You have your bracelet. What happened to my bracelet? Oh, you took mine. Oh, okay. So you have to have your bracelet. You come up. Hey, folks, can we just, folks in the back, can we just have just a few minutes so we can get this done in an orderly fashion? You have to come up with your bracelet to vote. There are pieces of paper in the back. There are pens. And remember,
That's my feeling.
an I vote is to disapprove of the amendments. A nay vote will maintain the amendments in place that were put in place in April. Okay, any questions about that? You questions, guys, folks, now please sit down until we get started unless you have some pending emergency.
Can you put Y or N on the ballot? Can you put yes or no on the ballot, or does it have to be I or nay?
Is I or nay a problem for anyone?
No.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, why?
A no vote is equivalent to a nay.
Yeah.
A I vote is equivalent to yes.
Okay.
We've always
You don't need an antiquated, verbal, ancient, 17th century procedure.
We've always allowed yes. Tina.
If that's the way
We've
you
always
feel.
allowed yes and no.
You can vote aye or yes, or nay or no. And the ballot box is open.
I got a piece of paper, so let's go.
Can
talking and then got here. Very informative.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. Good to see you out.
Okay.
Gotta get in here. Hold on.
Yep, put them in stacks of 10.
Yes, stacks of 10, please. 92.
92, how many do you have?
93, I think, but a couple people left.
Yeah, I know, as long as we're not over.
Yeah, we're not over. It was 92 or 93?
Yeah.
I have 9. Separate them in stacks.
Maybe, the way people discern what I am. I've got an AYE. I've got a yes. I've got a worn out.
Anybody's got anything for
Okay, that's a no.
5, 6, 7,
Do we have blank pieces of paper or are those yours?
8,
Those are mine.
10. There's 10. Does anybody need? Oh, you guys want that right there.
Do you want to?
I got 9 nays here.
Here's another one to make 10.
10.
What do you have for? Do you have a yes pile over there?
Okay, that's 10.
Is this your yes pile? I have yeses.
I got 5 yeses here.
I got 2 here.
That's 10.
I have 7. So do you want this 5 there?
No, it's 10.
Oh, there's 10.
3. That's
Here's
mine.
back in 10.
Put these together.
We'll put eyes over here and nose over there. 3 nays.
Anybody have any eyes over here? Here's 4 more names.
4 more.
I need 1, 10. There's
So
10.
there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 here.
I have, so we have,
These are 10s.
oh, that's nay, or
That's nay.
Yeah.
And this is 10 yes.
10, yes, these are, so if you guys count the, no.
I have extra yeses if there's...
Give them, Mom, count the yeses.
Right,
I can see how this is going already. Pretty obvious from the clapping.
Okay, it's 66 now.
66 more.
You can tell by the clapping of the meeting.
Is the number right?
Yeah, count
It's
them
off
out.
by
yeah.
1.
91.
Did you have a blank?
Did you have a blank?
Did someone say they had a blank? I thought.
No, there were some over here that I... Let's recount them.
But it
Okay.
doesn't mean everybody voted.
Yeah, but
No, but
she
she
has
checked
90,
in.
she checked off 92 people.
But I mean, everybody who checked in doesn't mean they all voted.
No, she checked them off.
She checked them off as they voted. Yeah.
That's 10.
5, 6,
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, 10. 10.
These are all 10.
1, 4, 5. We were off 1. 7. Okay. 8, 9, but that 10. Could be. It could. I mean, you did have people. What do we do about that? We do 90. No, we do 91.
It's
I mean, it's not close.
it's not off by 1.
No,
I
this
do
is
have
not.
6. I have 6.
Okay, 66.
I got
and
25 again.
66. Okay.
Well,
So it's
someone.
91. Yeah, I mean, people were coming out here, we need to keep these.
Or these.
Yeah, those are our ballots, we have to keep those. Yep. Okay.
That's the process working right there.
I didn't think it was going to be that far apart.
No, that's...
But I can tell by the clapping throughout the meeting here, starting to get a sense of the...
Yeah.
I'm just letting this one call the vote, say, wow, we're not going to be here all day. And then wait for the bylaw public hearing. That'll have some questions.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, folks, the meeting's called back in order. We have the results of this morning's vote. A total of 91 votes were cast. 25 votes were cast to disapprove the amendments. 66 votes were cast to approve the amendments and keep them in place. The business of the meeting having been completed, I'll entertain a motion question?
Jail, I move to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it.
The meeting is adjourned.